All right, it's time to talk basketball. I'm Jose Salviati, editor at thepeachbasket.net. He is Steve Purciello, a longtime educator, vice principal, high school basketball coach, athletic director, and he's also the host of Celtic Chalk Talk. Celtic Chalk Talk is a pod dedicated to the latest news and opinions surrounding the Boston Celtics from a lifelong fan, Steve. That pod will drop new episodes every Monday, but this is the Shot Clock Pod, the best 24 minutes of random NBA thoughts online anywhere. This podcast was born out of the content of Steve's 13 Rules, random NBA thoughts articles, which he publishes weekly. Steve and I have exactly 24 minutes to discuss what's on his mind around the NBA. Today we'll discuss his latest 13 Rules, random NBA thoughts article, where he shares his random thoughts as we are this close to the conference finals and the NBA Final Four in the 2025-26 NBA playoffs. Now, if you're listening to this, thank you. We are one of many independent fan-driven shows on the Peach Basket Podcast Network. We're not owned by a big media company, which means what you hear comes straight from real fans like Steve and I, who live the game every day. If you believe voices like this should be heard, the best way to support us is simple. Keep listening, tell a friend, comment, subscribe. And when this episode ends, head down to the peachbasketpodcastnetwork.com and or thepeachbasket.net. Check out more fan-run podcasts and help this independent network grow the way it started, organically, one Hoops fan at a time. We appreciate the support, and we're glad you're here. Steve, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go. Clock is going. All right, we're going to start with a little bit of controversy. I didn't watch the game live, but after I heard so much about this particular game and I read what you wrote, I had to go and look at it, so I have some thoughts. But obviously, we're talking about the Cavs versus the Pistons. Tight game, closeout game for the Pistons, but the Cavs pulled it out. Now, if the Pistons lose Game 7, which as we record this is a couple of hours away, that's going to be a topic of conversation for a while, that particular play. What did you see at the end of regulation in Game 5?
I thought Thompson was fouled. There would have been 1.5 seconds left. He's not a good foul shooter. So it would have been interesting about that. Cleveland had 2 timeouts. They could have, let me go backwards. The NBA puts out their last 2 minutes for every game.
Right.
If it's within a certain 5 points, I think, with inside 5, whatever. But in it, the NBA said there was no foul and they both hit. It was nothing. I didn't quite think that, but the point being, that was the first thing. So the NBA avoided controversy, although J.B. Bickerstaff, when he saw that, said that's bullshit or something along that line. But if he would have gone to the line, 1.5 seconds left, he's a 54% foul shooter. That's guys miss 2. Better foul shooters miss 2 like that.
Yeah.
Or they make 1, whatever the case. But Cleveland had their 2 timeouts. So they would have used the timeout immediately and taken the ball out the other end. And when you have Donovan Mitchell on your team, it's never over till it's over.
Yeah.
And it was a really, I don't know what you want to say, but it really was interesting. Now, Detroit, they did show a lot of courage coming back against the other night and beating Cleveland in Cleveland. So it opens it up, but boy, they'll have, there's some people that aren't going to forget that if they lose the series.
Yeah. So I'm West Coast. We've brought this up before. Steve's East Coast. I didn't watch the game live, but I heard a lot of the controversy. And then I read, again, like I said, what Steve wrote. So I went to go look at it. So I'm watching the game, the highlight, and I see the last play, and I immediately say, okay, he was fouled. We're going to the line. And there was no foul called, and then they went on to overtime. And I'm like, wait, what happened? Where's this play that everybody's talking about? Because in my mind, I was thinking it was egregious. I thought it was because everybody talks about he pulled his leg out, he kicked him. It wasn't like that. It was definitely incidental contact. But watching it live, that's a foul. And I immediately thought it was a foul. And then hearing Tony Brothers say, the way he explained it, is it was just incidental. They bumped into each other and they knocked legs. I think 9 out of 10 times, though, that's a foul.
There's a couple things on this. One of the things, and I really don't like when people say you don't make a call like that at the end of a game.
Yeah,
if it's a foul, it's a foul.
It's a foul.
There's a rule. If it broke that rule, it's a foul. No matter how you do it, I don't care when it happens. Don't tell me you'd call that in the first quarter, but not at the end. Don't say that. So that's first. The other interesting thing is Tony Brothers is considered probably one of the 4 or 5 best officials in the NBA. He was the guy that was closest to the play.
Yeah.
It was his call, and he passed on it. I understand that. And I don't like it, but I understand it. And I will give Tony Brothers the benefit of the doubt because he's a very good official. And so that's what I look at. In the NBA, in fact, this week, the NBA, the officials came out that the officials, there's 3 different
Oh, right, right,
tiers.
right.
Tier
Yeah.
one, tier two,
Yeah.
tier three. Tony Brothers usually gets a finals game or two, and he's the lead ref. So it tells you everything you want to know. And in fact, every day you can check who the referees are just by watching a game. You can see you'll see Tony Brothers a couple times in the next couple weeks in the semifinals.
Sure.
And so you're talking about one of the better officials, and he's not one who's known for shenanigans,
Yeah.
lack of a better word. There's some officials that are known to bring teams home when they're, when they have to win and so on. And others, if you look up their percentage at home teams winning is high. So there's all different things. But Brothers is considered legit and fair. So I'll give him that, but that's a tough way to lose a game.
Yeah. No, undeniable. And we get game 7 tonight, and so we'll see who the final team, who the final team is in the final four, which is pretty exciting. I'm gonna go down a little bit of a rabbit hole. I don't normally do this because we only have 24 minutes, but I like what you said, right? A foul is a foul. It doesn't matter whether it comes in 2 seconds left or 2 minutes in. But what do you think about the superstar call? LeBron drives to the hoop, he's called a foul. Rookie drives to the hoop, same exact situation, he's called for a foul, right? In other words,
Yeah,
excuse me, superstars get the calls that the rookies don't. What do you think about that?
I think if you think about it, throughout life, the people that are known and trusted get more leeway or not, get the advantage than the people who aren't. It's just a fact of life on the job, everywhere we go. If you are a good employee who's worked for many years, you're going to get away with a little more than the new guy. You really think about it, it's just the way it is. The one
Okay.
thing I will
All
say,
right.
the NBA has got to do something about. I know the NBA tried years ago. They said referees are gonna be more friendly, and after a call, guys will run over while the guy's shooting foul shots, and they'll talk about it. The NBA's got to clean that up because what's happening is every time there's contact and a guy shoots, you see him throw his arms up. You'll see the shooter get. That's got to stop. And at some point, I don't know what the NBA does. Start teeing up everybody. I don't know, but play the game. Play the game and stop it. Stop
All right.
crying.
NBA is life. It's just a little microcosm of life. That was deep, Steve. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're not talking to a deep guy, but go ahead.
All right, let's go on. Let's see. What else did you write about? Such great content this week, as always. All right, let's talk about the team that either pardon me, I just gave it away, right? The Cavs or the Pistons are going to play. That's the New York Knicks. They haven't played in a while after dispatching the Sixers in 4. Which team, the Cavs or the Pistons, gives the Knicks the most trouble? And can either one of those two teams beat them?
I don't think so, but the Pistons give them trouble. They smoked them a couple times this year. I If the Knicks continue to play the way they are, they got a shot at the whole thing. They're playing basketball at a level that's really not been seen. And what's incredible is even from three, they're shooting real well. And it's just a law of averages. People come back to where they were, but they're way above what they should be. And it has to change. I know they're making a big thing about Towns playing like a point center up on top of the key.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing. And people are cutting and he's finding them. That's a very interesting thing. I go back and forth. What I will say is they play the Pistons. I'm not saying he's as good as him, but Towns is going to have a physically tough time against Duran, Stewart. Those guys are pretty strong and they're rough. He's beat up and hurting. So that's going to, and then Okongwu's 6'9", and when they played Atlanta. So that might be an interesting situation that you have to watch. But the Knicks are playing so well. If they play the Pistons, I think the Knicks will win in 6. If they played Cleveland, I think it'll be 5. The one thing I will say, first game, which is Tuesday night, generally everybody thinks the team that played on Sunday's got to come back on Tuesday. Oh, God, trouble. No, the Knicks are the team that's going to struggle, I believe, because they haven't played in over a week. And usually teams come out a little flat to start a game when they haven't played in real competition
Right.
in over a week.
Yeah, that's always the danger of sweeping, is if you want to call it that. It's the one downside, right? Is you do
Right.
potentially lose a little bit of that competitive edge, which might mean you're in the hole, right? 0-1 at the start, which would be interesting to see. 1991, the Chicago Bulls lost game one to the Los Angeles Lakers, and that just got them mad. And then they
Well,
swept the next four.
there's not many Michael Jordans walking around for the Knicks. So
This is true. This is true. All right, so let's before we move to the West, because we've got a lot more to talk about. We talked about the Cavs, we talked about the Pistons, we talked about the Knicks. Time to call it. Who's winning Game 7 tonight?
I think the Pistons will win. I think the one thing I fear if I'm a Piston is that Donovan Mitchell goes off. If he doesn't go off, you're okay. You're always afraid, though, because he's such a good scorer that he can do something. But the game comes down to this: Cleveland can score, and they can play at a good pace. Detroit has Cade Cunningham and a group of guys. If the game is mucked up with a lot of whistles and
Yeah.
just a sludge, Detroit wins. If the game
Hmm.
is an up and down, Cleveland wins. I kind of
Okay.
think defense wins in these kind of games. So
Yeah.
and Detroit is a very good defensive team.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at them. And by the way, Asar Thompson, what a great defensive player he is.
Yeah.
Him and his brother are just ball on the ball. They're as good as anybody. They're not Wembanyama, but he's not on the ball. He's by the basket.
Yeah.
But they are just so good.
Yeah. Great shout out. Okay. As you heard it here first, Detroit versus the Knicks. We'll see how that plays out. Let's go to the West now. You just mentioned Wemby. Now, the Spurs are the only team in the NBA this season to have a winning record against the Thunder in their head-to-head matchup. They've gone 1-1 with some teams, 2-2, but no other team has beaten them.
Right.
The Spurs did it 4 times. It wasn't even close. And I have a very, very clear recall. I forget who the player was, though. Why do you guys struggle against the Spurs? And he just said, the guy's 7'6". What do you want us to do? Because there's no answer for
Right.
Victor Wembanyama. So the Spurs are 4-1 against OKC Thunder in the regular season, the only team with a winning record. Who do you like in this series between the Spurs and the Thunder, and why?
First of all, I'll say to you, who do you like first?
I called it out, right? The Spurs are my pick. The Spurs are my championship pick. I'm gonna clip that somewhere and I'll post it. Maybe I'll post it right here or something when we do this video. But yeah, I picked the Spurs. There's something about Wemby's attitude, right? He just, we saw how he single-handedly beat the Timberwolves, really. And I shouldn't say single-handedly because Castle has been phenomenal. Dylan Harper has
He's
been
great.
phenomenal. Their supporting cast is so good. But it's Wemby's team, right? It all revolves around Wemby, and there's just something about this guy. They just, he just exudes this confidence, right? That we haven't seen in the NBA in a while. He's got a little bit of that, dare I say, Mamba mentality going on, and I just think that they're going to have to be phenomenal. They're going to have to be great because the Thunder are the defending champs. They've got the two-time MVP now in SGA. But I just think there's something about this team, and I think they're going to win it all.
I like Oklahoma. However, I would understand if San Antonio pulls it off. I wouldn't be shocked. I kind of look at San Antonio as almost ready for prime time, meaning it's a meteoric rise, and maybe there's a step in between.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things, and I just think Oklahoma just keeps coming at you. They have so many guys that can score, and so many guys who can play that they're just so deep and so good. I'd be stunned if San Antonio wins, but I don't see it. And how many times we've watched sports where teams own another team in the regular season. Then when the playoffs come, it changes.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
and all the factors that I think about are with Oklahoma, meaning teams don't rise that quickly like that. The only thing I can think of that is when Larry Bird came to the Celtics and they won 50 games, 40 games more the next year. And the year after, I think they won the title. But it takes a little step or two before you get there. So I don't. I think it'll be a good series. I like Oklahoma in 6, but I can see it going 7 and coming down to. And I do believe Wembanyama is just. I thought he should have been the MVP. I just think once he wins the MVP, they might as well close the award because he's going to win it every year unless he's hurt, because he's in a different place. But you're missing something else. Stephen Castle
Yeah.
and Harper, they're just going to get better and better.
Yeah.
So San Antonio, if they pay these people, they're all young and no injuries. That's going to be the champion for quite a while.
Yeah. It's funny. We were having the same conversation along the same lines last year with the Thunder, right? We were saying the same things. They're young, they're healthy. If they pay them, if they keep this team together, and now it's another team. It's kind of wild. And I think we haven't talked about De'Aaron Fox, who's 28, just entering his prime, and he's the old guy.
Let me ask you this: if they traded him, would there be much? Would they miss much? Would Harper?
If they traded De'Aaron Fox?
Yeah, with Harper having an. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Those two guys with Wembanyama, Harper and Castle, with Wembanyama, what a threesome. And you can piece in people around that because and Vassell's not bad, and Keldon Johnson, they got some players. Yeah. So Fox almost becomes, in a year or two, he's got a big contract. He almost becomes a pawn you can trade, and get some other things back, draft picks or whatever else you want. They're that good, and I think it will be their turn soon.
22 games. Last year they won 34. And then this year they won 62. Huge jump, meteoric jump.
Right.
And yeah, we'll see. But I love the way you categorize them this close. And so because they're that close to being championship ready, it wouldn't surprise you if they were to win.
If you follow the game and over the years and think like these things that happen are patterns and you should follow them. And I'm going to give you a couple things. This year's a little different. Not many teams have a shot at the title that went through a season losing 9 out of 12 or whatever it was the Knicks lost. And right now, that's unusual. You can't think of a team that won a title that played that poorly.
Yeah.
So the normal patterns of the NBA are out. Generally, a team wins 60 games and at least 60 and doesn't have bad stretches. So that you put aside and say, wow, this is different. Now you talk about San Antonio and how quickly they've maybe it's a different time and maybe the patterns aren't following the way they usually do.
Yeah, or maybe this guy, Victor Wembanyama, is as impactful. And I know you were talking about the Knicks, I'm back to the Spurs, but this guy is as impactful to the Spurs as Larry Bird was to the Celtics, as Magic Johnson was to the Lakers, as the trade for Kevin Garnett was to the Celtics. That turned a team, that was a 180-degree turn one season to the next. Now, Wemby's been there for, I think, 4 seasons. So this isn't overnight. 3. So, listen, when I look at Wemby, I see a guy, and I'm not putting him up with Magic and Bird yet, but I'm saying he's in that trajectory, man. And if he wins this championship with this team, that's a more viable conversation, don't you think?
First of all, if he doesn't get hurt, and I keep saying that because his body is not.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't get hurt, you're going to be looking at other players and comparing them to Wembanyama, not Jordan.
Sure. Yeah.
Or Larry Bird. You're not going to compare that. He's going to be the person that everybody compares to. And I don't think you'll ever see another basketball player that can do the things he can do.
Yeah.
He's got the whole thing. He can block shots. He can handle the ball. He can shoot threes. What can't he do on the court? And you're never going to see that I don't think, maybe in the future there'll be more 7'5" guys or 7'4" guys that can do this. But I haven't seen many of them walking around.
No, no,
The one negative I just want to add though is when you saw Kristaps Porzingis, you
sure.
thought
Yeah,
he's big and he's undefendable. If he gets the ball in the post, he just shoots over people, and
yeah,
he can shoot a three. You thought, but then when you look at his career, it's been marred by injuries, and you
yeah,
hope that doesn't happen because they have similar bodies, Porzingis and Wembanyama. So you hope it doesn't happen to this guy.
yeah. No, same. And again, when I look at Wemby, I think of Kareem. Different players, but same body type, right? And Kareem never really had that kind of injury problems, right? He was out, and of course, when he got older, he would take his days off.
Well,
But he wasn't injury prone.
when you're that big, and he was a couple inches bigger than centers on other teams, the physicality in the post wouldn't be as much because you can literally give room and still block shots. So
Yeah,
for Kareem, I don't know if he got pounded like that. And that was in a game when it was a post up game. Now the game is shooting. And
yeah.
so for Wembanyama, it's a lot different. It's a lot different.
Kent Benson tried to be a little aggressive with Kareem, and that didn't work out too well, if you remember.
But, who was Ken Benson? He won a championship at Indiana. That was his big moment. And by the way, the old story is Larry Bird didn't like him
Really
because they were in college together at Indiana, and Bird transferred, and Benson made his life horrible. So whenever he played against Benson, he went off
interesting. Okay,
yeah, it's an old story.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah,
Well, let's kind of move off of the playoffs and start talking off season
yeah.
in the couple minutes we have left, because you called out some interesting off season possibilities with some pretty big names. Probably the biggest name in the NBA is LeBron James. He might move. And then Giannis. What do you see for these two stars during this offseason and into next year?
The Lakers are in an interesting situation. If they sign him, they lose the ability to go out. And let's face it, if you look at the Laker team, they're 3 or 4 deep with LeBron. If they sign him, they're not going to have the money to go out and get people. They're
Right.
going to have to pony up money for Reeves.
Yep.
But I think sentimentality, and I think LeBron wants to stay in LA because his family's there, and he's happy there, and he likes it. He's got some business things he does at LA, so I don't think he wants to go anywhere. I look at the Lakers signing him as long as they don't embarrass him and offer him 10 million or something. If he gets a decent $30 million offer, I think he'd be wanting to stay. You're out there. What do you know about that?
I know nothing. I do feel like even 30 million just handcuffs the Lakers and puts them in a position where they can't really move forward. This team needs to move forward. They need to move on from LeBron. And I think from a purely basketball perspective, they are better off just moving on from him. I get LeBron wanting to stay, but I also know, and you know this, and we've talked about it, LeBron is not going to take a pay cut. Right? He's not going to join for the minimum. He's not going to give the team a hometown discount. He's doing what Kobe Bryant did the last 2 years. I think he took 50 million over 2 years, which was a big number. And again, he handcuffed the Lakers, but they're like, that's Kobe Bryant. Of course, we're going to pay you. I don't think they make the same mistake twice. I think they let LeBron walk. What we're hearing out here is that third time the charm with the Cavs is the highest possibility. But if I'm the Cavs, I don't. Aside from the sentimentality of it, I don't know why I would want LeBron James with what is already a pretty good team. But that's what I think.
Because of the CBA, collective bargaining agreement, guys like LeBron played with a bunch of teams, but any Steph Curry or anybody, guys like him, and he still can play, but he's hurt a lot. They're getting 60, 70 million, and because of the cap, you're not getting the old Curry. You're going to get him for 50 or 60 games, not for 80. So you're hurting your team. And so guys, it's more difficult for guys to finish their career with the same team because they're still expecting that big money and they're not bringing it and getting you that playing for that 70 million. And then we can segue to Giannis. How'd you like that segue? But when you talk about Giannis,
Yeah.
he's up for another contract and big money. And you know what? He didn't play a lot of games this year. You're gambling here. And think about the last couple of years with the playoffs. He hasn't played. So when they did make the playoffs, so you're playing here with something you want him have at him, but you better keep him healthy. And if you're going to keep him healthy, you have to resign your team to be a fourth place team, lower, and you have to win some games on the road in the playoffs. So
Yeah.
those are the factors that go into Giannis because he's not. I don't think he'll play back to backs and he'll play all those type of those things. So you're not going to win as many games. And if he gets hurt, there we go. He's out for weeks. And then you're really in trouble. So that's the problem with the older people and with Giannis. And then there's one more thing. LeBron's different. Giannis is a trade. If you're going to trade for
Right.
Giannis, unless you're Oklahoma City or I don't know, but my point being, you're going to tear up your team. So you want to come out of the trade with a chance to win the title.
Yep.
But when you give away two of your better players, you're going to have a little bit of a problem here. So there's a lot that goes into it. I know the rumors of Boston with Jaylen Brown, and they're interesting. As a Boston fan, I hope they don't do it, but they're interesting rumors. And then if they do it, you just have to hope he stays healthy. And I'll just bring back something. Kevin Garnett came to Boston in 2008. They won a title.
Yep.
The next year, Boston got off to a 40-10 type start, ridiculous start, and Garnett got hurt, and they didn't. He didn't play for the rest of the year, and Boston didn't win it. And then the next year, that whole Laker game, that Game 7 was a disaster. But the point being, that's what happens when you take somebody who's got a lot of wear and tear on their body, and that's my point.
Fair enough. And the buzzer went off, and so I hesitate to say, but we left out one big name. We talked about We talked about Giannis. We talked about Braun. But Kawhi Leonard might be on the trading block. So I got to ask you, Steve. You brought up Giannis. If you're a team and you're interested, and you've got those two players that you're willing to give up for Giannis, but you've also got Kawhi, who do you take? Do you pick Giannis or do you pick Kawhi?
I think Giannis is
Really, Kawhi
probably
had one of the best seasons of his career
well.
coming off.
And I understand. And
All right.
Kawhi is a real good player. He's great. How? And I'm just going to play the other side to it. If the Clippers were to trade him, what would they want? Just general. I don't want players' names, but generalities. Draft picks. What?
Yeah, I think they need draft picks, but they need
Okay.
an impactful player.
Just stop right there. If they're going to get draft picks, they're getting them from a team that expects to compete for a title. Am I
Sure.
correct?
Yeah.
So, what are you getting? The 25th pick in the draft?
Yeah.
My point again, like if you're going to do that, if you're and the Clippers aren't ready to do this, if you're going to do that, and whatever team you trade him to, you want to get picks that are in 5 years because then you're hoping they're not good anymore. If you're
Sure.
getting picks for next year and you're trading Kawhi, what are you doing? You're going to get the
Yeah.
25th pick.
Yeah.
If I'm the Detroit Pistons, yeah, I'll take them. I'll give you a bunch of first rounds for next year, 2 years, this year, 2 years from now, and so on. But you know what? Detroit is going to probably be in the middle of it for the next couple of years. So what are you getting? So that's the point. So now, are you going to trade Kawhi to the Utah Jazz? I don't think. I don't think that kind of
Right.
is going to happen because what's he going to do? He don't want to play there, and they're not going to be a champion.
Yeah.
So that's my thinking on that.
All
You
right.
know, and similarly with Giannis, but I believe Kawhi makes 40 million. Giannis makes about 60 something. There's a little difference there. So you can find a package to get the 40 million a lot easier than you can find a package that'll get the 60.
Yeah. Yeah. And Kawhi remains a very good defensive player where Giannis never really was.
He just is big, and
He's big. That's probably not fair. I think he's a disruptor. He can be good, but that's not what he's known for. But all right, you heard the shot clock go off. We just went right through it. It's what we do. Our time is up. That is it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. As always, make sure to read Steve's entire 13 Rules Random NBA Thoughts article. We will link it below wherever you are listening or watching to this. You're watching this now. And join us next week for more Random NBA Thoughts as we recap the start of the conference finals. Looking forward to that and looking forward to Game 7 tonight. We'll talk then, Steve. Thanks.
Take care.